this week we've had a question from Francesco Branco, who's asked, is Michail Antonio the perfect striker for the way that West Ham play and potentially reaching the Champions League? So get your take on Michail Antonio.
I like Michail. I really do. I think he gives you everything he's got. Sometimes he's not in complete control of what he wants to do. He plays off the cuff. And I think that's very difficult for someone like Stubbs, who would have marked him, to read. He's got pace and power, but he's also clever with his movement. He drags people into positions to make room for others. He's hitting things off both feet. I think he's always been a continual threat. Stubbsy will tell you better than me, being a centre-back. He'd never give you an easy day, even when he's not playing well. You know, because it might not be working for him in front of goal, but he just shake things loose for his teammates. You know, he pulls you around. He runs in behind. He's got a whole range of. He's good in the air. I mean, he would be a nightmare for you, wouldn't he, Al?
Yeah, he would. And I think when he doesn't score, he does a lot of unselfish work for other people. Whether he's bouncing off a centre back who mishits his clearance and it falls for someone else. Do I think he's the player that's going to get them a Champions League spot? I don't. I think they're going to need a bit more than that to finish in that top four. They're going to need a bit more quality. But what David hasn't done, he hasn't brought in a potential replacement for him who is taking him to the next step. And I think he's always had to go back to him because it's like revert back to type.
Yeah.
In terms of the way they are, and he's effective. He's effective. You know, he's so strong. He's so powerful. He's not going to be prolific. He's not going to score you 50 and 20 goals a season. I think we know that. But what David likes about him is that he knows what he's going to get from him. And I think with a manager, when you know exactly what a individual is going to give you, you go, I can handle that.
Absolutely.
It's the players around him then that are going to have to create and give that little bit more quality, bit more guile, you know. But there's no doubt he's a player that I don't think any centre back in the Premier League likes playing against.
We've talked about on this podcast before about the shortage of kind of out and out strikers that there is around at the minute. Is it true you tried to sign him when you were at Villa?
Yeah, I would have liked to have signed him. I think he would have helped to take us up the league a little bit more. It was never going to be possible. You know, Benteke had left the club, so there was an opportunity to get a like for like. I think he's a little bit more mobile than Christian. You know, he gets in behind. And like Stubbsy said, he's a player who, you know what you're going to get from him. You know, he's a 7, 8 out of 10 man. You know, maybe never a 10, but probably never gives you a 3. And as a manager, you want to put your head on the pillow knowing you're going to wake up, not be woken up by someone like him. And I don't think he'll give you that. I think he's a perfect David Moyes signing. I think you need probably 6 or 7 of these guys in your team, and then you can throw in a few Mavericks in around them. So I think at the time he probably would have been a bit too rich for us with what we were trying to bring into the club, and probably a little bit too old at the time. And having said that, he's still playing around now. You know, I think they were looking to buy younger players, very young players, and he took a real risk and paid the price, unfortunately.
He was linked with Everton early on in the summer, and I think he would have been perfect for Everton. Absolutely. In terms of how they play, holding the ball, a big striker that Sean Dyche wants. He would have been, and I think he was. If ever any Everton fans you would have asked, what could you take anyone now? I think Antonio would have been right at the top of the list because we've signed Beto, but obviously he's still an unknown. We don't necessarily know what we're going to get just yet. Whereas at least with Antonio, you know exactly what you're going to get. What he says on the tin, he more often than not delivers.
Yeah, and he's done it in the league.
Yeah.
In the league he's coming to. He's already rehearsed, you know, so you know he's going to hit the floor running. Yeah. The support are going to get behind him because he's the type of player what Everton fans want to see.